Can we talk for a bit? So I was just scrolling through YouTube not that long ago, and I then stumbled upon this video. Now, if you look at it as a casual viewer, you wouldn't really think anything of it. It just looks like a video that's telling you, hey, these are the top 50 airplane crashes throughout history. But being a historian who has studied some of these air crashes, I took a closer look at the thumbnail, and I noticed some things were off. Now, looking at the video itself, the video is actually 100% accurate. But the only thing that caught my attention because of it was the thumbnail, because I realized there was a lot of stuff that was misleading in that thumbnail, and I'm going to review it right now. So taking a look at the first photo, it's cut off at the side of the thumbnail, so I can't get a good look at it. So I decided to scroll through the video, and scrolling through the video and hinting at these letters at the bottom of the screen, I was quickly able to find the airline it was talking about. It was talking about Aeroflot, a Russian airline. And scrolling through the video once again, I was quickly able to find the exact one it was talking about. Aeroflot Flight 5143. This flight had a high-altitude stall, which eventually led to its crash, unfortunately killing 200 of its occupants. And I can't get a good look at the death count at the side of the thumbnail, so I'm going to give this one a pass. Or am I? Taking a look at the photo of the aircraft, it has an engine on the wing. And looking at the aircraft that was involved in this accident, it was actually a TU-154B-2. This aircraft, like a 727, has engines on its tail, not on its wings. Taking a look at the next part of the thumbnail, it shows a photo of two aircraft colliding midair. It says it occurred in Turkey, 1974, and involved Turkish Airlines. Now, there's a couple things wrong with this right off the bat. First of all, I was quickly able to figure out what crash it was talking about. It was talking about the crash of Turkish Airlines Flight 981. This occurred on March 3rd, 1974, and it was a Douglas DC-10 aircraft, and it crashed after a failing cargo door caused a rapid decompression of the aircraft, which eventually led to loss of control. And it actually did have 346 deaths involved. And like I said, this was a DC-10 single accident. And looking at the thumbnail, it clearly shows two aircraft colliding mid-air. And looking at one of the aircraft, it looks like the Lufthansa logo. But obviously, looking at the airlines, I can't get a good view of their names. So obviously, I wasn't able to figure out what aircraft he was using.
Hey guys, Editor Camden here. Just another quick word of note. It says that this crash took place in Turkey, but actually looking at it, the crash actually took place in France because the plane was en route from France to London.
Moving on to the next part of the thumbnail, which in my opinion is honestly the worst one of them all. It shows a photo of an airplane fuselage with part of it ripped off, exposing the passengers underneath. Then it shows a guy flying out of it, and it says 450 people died. This occurred in the USA 2001 and involved United Airlines. Okay, what did I just see again? So there's quite a bit to unpack about this. First of all, this says USA 2001 and involved United Airlines. Let that sink in for a bit. USA 2001 United Airlines. That's right. It is obviously talking about United Airlines Flight 175, which was famously one of the 4 planes hijacked on September 11th, 2001. And this specific plane in particular was flown into the South Tower of the World Trade Center, killing 65. Not 450, 65. And something else to keep in mind, the aircraft that they're showing in the photo doesn't look anything like a United Airlines plane. It has orange on it, and in one of the letters of its name that is part of the fuselage that came off, it has an H on it. Where do you see H in the word United Airlines? That's right, you don't see one. So this is obviously talking about a different airline. But doing some research, I unfortunately couldn't find any airline referring to this one. Moving on to the next thumbnail, it shows a photo of what looks like a 727 plummeting from the sky with its wing on fire. And looking at it, I already knew which crash it was referring to. It was referring to the crash of PSA Flight 182, which was a Boeing 727 that crashed on September 25th, 1978, after suffering a mid-air collision with a Cessna 172. All 137 people on the plane died, including the 2 Cessna pilots, along with 7 people on the ground, 2 of those 7 being children. But here's the part that really threw me off the rails. This says that it occurred in India circa 1985 and involved the airline Air India, and a total of 583 people were killed. What? This is obviously super false on way too many levels, but I'm going to break it down. Looking at the date and the airline, I already knew which crash it was referring to. It was referring to the crash of Air India Flight 182. This was a Boeing 747, and it blew up mid-flight due to a terrorist bomb hidden inside of a suitcase, killing 329 people. Speaking of the death count, again looking at the death count, like I said, it said 583 people. Now obviously, this isn't true, judging by what we just learned. Now, looking at the death count, I already knew which it was referring to. This death count was referring to the unfortunate death toll that was involved in the Tenerife airport disaster, aka the worst aircraft disaster in aviation history. It involved 2 Boeing 747s, one owned by Pan American World Airways and the other one owned by KLM. Both of them collided on the runway, and everyone on the KLM aircraft sadly perished, while 61 people on the Pan Am managed to survive. And like I said before, the death count was 583 people. Finally, we reached it. The last photo. Hopefully this one is not the worst one of them all. Oh. So yeah, looking at this last photo, it shows an aircraft and it appears to be on fire. And it says 2,977 people died in this aircraft accident. And it occurred in Saudi Arabia and involved Saudi Arabia Airlines. What? What? Huh? Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, but let's start with the death count. 2,977, highly doubt it. Like I said before, the worst aviation accident in history had 583 deaths. This is like 3 times as much. And looking at the death count, I obviously knew exactly what it was referring to. It was referring to every single innocent death involved in the September 11th attacks. The September 11th attacks was a terrorist attack on America, which was led by this terrorist group called Al-Qaeda, which was led by Osama bin Laden. It involved 4 aircraft, 2 767s and 2 757s. Both 767s crashed into the Twin Towers in New York City, collapsing them and unfortunately killing many civilians. The American Boeing 757 crashed into the Pentagon. Meanwhile, the United 757 actually didn't hit its target and it was overtaken by the passengers, which caused it to crash, unfortunately killing everyone on board. And like I said before, the entire death toll of that day adds up to 2,977. Well, that certainly was interesting to cover. I know this is very different from my usual videos, but as soon as I saw the thumbnail, I just had to think, I have to tell people about this. Like I said in the warning, please don't go to his video and post hateful comments. Like I said, this was made for educational purposes and I was just breaking down the thumbnail. Because like I also said before, the video itself is 100% accurate. It's just the thumbnail that caught my attention and wanted me to make this video. Anyways guys, thank you all for watching and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.